When it comes to the health of Americans, Republicans don't have a good track record. During the early days of AIDS, Reagan wouldn't even acknowledge the deaths of young men and women. Actually, the first person to die from AIDS in the United States was, ironically, a woman. And Jerry Falwell, Reagan's spiritual advisor, said that this AIDS was God's punishment for being gay.
We make God mad. I really believe that the pagans and the abortionists and the feminists and the gays and the lesbians who are actively trying to make that an alternative lifestyle, the ACLU, People for the American Way, all of them who tried to secularize America, I point the finger in their face and say, you helped this happen.
But the latest from the Republican Party is that they're doubling down on this. There's a rule change at the Department of Veterans Affairs, and it's backed by Trump's executive order that would allow doctors at public veterans hospitals to deny care to people based on a variety of previously protected categories, including affiliation to a political party, national origin, or marital status. In other words, if you're gay, transgender, Hispanic, a Democrat, divorced, and you need medical attention, they can say fuck off. This is a direct threat to care in the VA hospital system, the United States' largest integrated hospital network, which includes 170 hospitals, more than 1,000 clinics, and treats about 9 million veterans every year. And now Republicans want more cuts to these programs. Remember those two letters, VA, that's veterans.
One thing Trump is not talking about, new blistering revelations from his former chief of staff, John Kelly. In a statement to CNN, Kelly confirms long-standing allegations that Trump called prisoners of war suckers. Trump is said to have made the remark at Arlington National Cemetery on Memorial Day. I don't get it. What was in it for them?
VA officials made the rule change based on Trump's January 30th executive order titled Defending Women from Gender Ideology Extremism and Restoring Biological Truth to the Federal Government. If that's not right out of Orwell, I don't know what is. The primary purpose of this order was to strip protections from transgender people.
The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs will phase out treatment of gender dysphoria. NPR's Quill Lawrence reports this follows President Trump's executive order to end any distinction between sex and gender by the federal government.
Last week, the VA rescinded a memo that protected gender-affirming care. And now, VA Secretary Doug Collins says treatment for gender dysphoria will be discontinued. Collins said trans-identifying vets are still welcome at the VA for other care. The VA provides health care and benefits for about 9 million veterans. VA estimates that fewer than 0.1% identify as trans.
But if you didn't know already and you didn't hear, those protections are long gone. We're not talking about transgender trying to swim with 10-year-old girls. These are veterans.
The VA takes care of people like me. The VA takes care of people who are in wheelchairs because of their service, who are laying flat on their backs in a hospital bed because of their service. The VA's taking care of them. That's not waste. That's not fraud. That's not abuse. That's what they have earned, is that care. And that's what everybody in this whole country earns just by being citizens, is care. How come we are not taking care of our people?
Every single one of you. Nothing unchanged faith that AFGE has filed more lawsuits than a little bit, and we're not going to give up. All I need to know today is will you stand with us?
We're out here on the mall today because the Veterans Administration, which takes care of a lot of us, myself included. I'm 90% disabled. Certain parties who are in the government are really trying to cut the hell out of what we have supposedly earned by our service over the years. Hear it from the podium, we're here to fight back. First of all, there's a whole lot of vets that actually are losing their jobs, particularly government jobs. We got a preference. That was one of our benefits of being in the service. We got a little bit of a preference for jobs coming out. And there's people who have been working for the government for 10, 20, 30 years who are being basically told, we don't need you anymore. Thank you very much. Actually, there's no thank you very much in it. Let's just go away. I'm 90% disabled, according to the Veterans Administration. And it's because I've got Parkinson's disease. See, there's what I got, is Parkinson's disease. And it's generally attributed to the fact that I was exposed to Agent Orange during my service.
Trump's VA has forbidden a long list of words, including gender-affirming and transgender, from clinical settings. And another effect of the order was to remove every anti-discrimination protection that isn't strictly named in federal statutes. Federal law explicitly prohibits discrimination based on race, color, sex, or religion. But Trump's VA has many other rules that have gone way past federal law. Physicians, as well as other covered providers like psychologists, dentists, optometrists, and nurse practitioners, could turn away patients for voting for the Democratic Party, being unmarried or divorced, being an immigrant, being a member of a labor union, or if the reason for seeking care included rape or sexual assault or alcohol or cannabis, you're screwed. But there's more. First, though, I want to talk to you real quick about Medicare. Now, I went through the Medicare enrollment, and now I understand why I call it the Medicare maze. It's insanely difficult. I like to think I'm pretty smart, but it's so easy to miss things because the industry is far from transparent. Fortunately, I learned about Chapter, and after a 30-minute call with them, my wife and I learned we're going to save between $50,000 and $80,000 over the course of our lives. Chapter is completely independent. It's the only national Medicare advisor that compares every health plan. And when you call, you talk to an honest, patient, unbiased advisor who will walk you through every step. There's no pressure to sign up. And if you're already on the right plan, they'll tell you that. Call Chapter right now. The number's right there on the screen. That's 816-953-0071. That's 816-953-0071. All right, now there is some good news regarding Trump's attempt to cut off Americans' access to health and medicine. Today, a federal judge smacked down Trump's efforts to drastically cut grants to NIH, delivering a scathing rebuke and calling out the government's clear case of racial and LGBTQ discrimination. So what did Trump and RFK Jr. cut? Well, among many things, was access to HIV drugs and medications. Trump and Kennedy are targeting programs related to diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, with Wormbrain testifying that officials aim to eliminate DEI funding. But are you surprised they would cut off funding to HIV research and drugs? They've already cut off access to COVID vaccines for anyone between 6 and 65, and the funding for research into possible new pandemics.
President Trump signed an executive order today calling for the withholding of federal funds for schools and universities that impose a COVID-19 vaccine mandate.
And they're literally trying to kill off the people they define as Democrats. Judge William Young, an appointee of Ronald Reagan, declared the cuts illegal and void and ordered many restored. He said, "I'm hesitant to draw this conclusion, but I have an unflinching obligation to draw it, that this represents racial discrimination and discrimination against America's LGBTQ community." Listen to this. Young said it was palpably clear that this legislation had one mission: to stop research that may bear on the health, we're talking about the health care here, the health of Americans and our LGBT community. Last Saturday, 15 million Americans stood up and said they will not allow Trump and Kennedy and Patel and Miller and Bannon and the rest of these bottom-feeding fucks to try and kill America. But Trump is appealing to these two guys. So maybe the next time we put 150 million people in the streets.
Goddamn right.
Do you have no shame?
I don't want to talk about this stuff.
Am I wrong? Yes. Tick-tock.
You're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
I think he's crazy.
I'm Chip Franklin.